Welcome to the new episode of All That Jazz. I'm your host, Matjash, and I have with me Julia Weisenberger. Did I get that right? Right?
Yeah.
And she's going to talk about her books, the translating that she does, her marketing stuff, and all that stuff. So welcome to the show, Julia.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited.
So I met you like I met a lot of people recently, which is a random ad on Facebook by me, I have to say. So to tell the listeners or the watchers, what is it that you do?
Yeah, okay, let's start. So I'm
Yeah.
from Germany, so my name is a little bit hard to pronounce to some people, so it's totally fine to call me Julia, whatever you want
Oh,
to.
I think it's Julia, right? Julia.
Yeah.
Ah, right. Okay.
But I'm used to that, so it doesn't really matter. That's totally fine. I think some friends of mine in school, they started to call me Julie when we had French class, so it doesn't really matter.
Très bien. Très bien.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Aye.
So fresh back from the south of France, where I made some vacation with friends of mine. So I'm really looking forward to that as well, just to get in that.
D'accord. That's the only
So
thing I know. D'accord. Très bien. That's about it.
I hope you also know how to say no.
No.
So otherwise you just say okay.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
Yes. So I'm the number one best-selling author, international best-selling author of a book called Yes I Can: 16 Success Secrets from Women All Over the World. And yeah, when the pandemic started, I was forced, as many of you, to go online. So I started with posting stuff and with getting connections to all of the people online. And I am amazed and blown away by how awesome people are on the internet. And but of course, you have some bad apples in there as well. But
Of
most of
course.
the time, they are really, really awesome. So I'm really looking forward to connect with all of them. Yeah, and when I started out, I started with affiliate marketing as well as many other people on this Facebook platform, I assume.
Right.
So then I figured out that it did not really fit with me and click with me to post all the stuff about online income and stuff like that, because I think many Germans, Europeans, and even other members from all over the world may know that it's a little bit tough to get asked how much are you making online. So I
Right.
think some
Okay.
people don't have any shame like that. So I started to post a little bit different. So I started to write and talk about stories and how to use them for your online business. And that's my main business at the moment. So I'm
Online
helping,
business.
yeah,
That's
I'm
great.
helping
We
entrepreneurs to write
By the
that.
way, you're also going to be on YouTube, so you're gonna venture out of your normal comfort zone. So
Ooh.
I have a whole 33 subscribers right now on YouTube, so great audience there.
Awesome, awesome. So welcome YouTube as well. I'm totally tickled pink. Thank you.
And also, you don't know in the future where this might be. So this I think one of the remarkable things, maybe this is a sidetrack a little bit, but one of the remarkable things about recording something online is that it may it may always stick around for the rest of your life.
So true, so true. So don't make me say anything embarrassing.
Right. Or try not to do any, yeah, try not to do anything embarrassing or stupid. Okay.
Oh,
Um,
true.
so what is your background? I imagine you went to school, yes?
Yes, yes, I did.
Great.
Um, I went to school. I was a very happy student because I really liked learning. So I love lifelong learning, and I definitely stick to that as well.
Right. Back
So
in the
then,
day, being a nerd was not popular, just to clarify. But now it's popular, so it's good now.
so true. But I never really cared about that anyway. So
That's
when
good.
people, I didn't even realize if they made fun of me or something. I couldn't tell. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe I was the crazy one in my school time, but I'm not really exactly sure about that. So, and I wouldn't have cared either way. So, I had a blast. I always connected with my teachers, and I loved learning from very many different people. So it was only natural that I went to university as well, and I finished my Master of Arts in Educational Science, Psychology, and Religious Science.
Did that help you in your marketing work now?
Yeah, definitely, because I have a broad array of stories that I can choose from. So my end of year, end of term, not training, some kind of, yeah, the test that I had to finish then for religious science, for example, was about Egyptian death cult. So I have a vast array of stories I can choose from to pick one out to post it.
What was your favorite, like from the religious studies that you did? What was some of your favorite learnings from that?
Since I did religious studies, I was able to take a peek in philosophy as well, and in different other departments. So for I'm not exactly sure how it's called in English, so Japanology or something like that. So
Okay.
Asian studies, something like that. So you could take a peek in Buddhism, Shintoism, whatever you wanted, and Egyptian beliefs in death, for example. So I had one philosopher teacher. It's a professor, and he was switching between France at the Sorbonne and Germany and in Munich, because I was going to the Ludwig Maximilian University. It's a very famous university in Munich. And he was really amazing. I just wanted to pick his brains a whole day long. he had such a vast amount of knowledge and of stories that he wanted to share. So after a while, I took my laptop with me and I just started to type everything that he was talking about. So I'm a rather fast typer, and I typed everything down that he was saying. And once he came and he said, "So what are you typing the whole day long?" And I was saying, "You open your mouth and I start typing." It doesn't really matter what you say. It's always amazing and it's blowing me away. And I love learning from you.
So he had to be careful as well what he was saying because you were writing everything down. You were
A
like in the
little bit.
courtrom, one of those people that writes everything down.
Yeah, definitely. So I let out the coughing and but yes, definitely. I recorded faithfully everything.
Wait, in the courtroom they say coughing as well or laughing? They write that down as well?
I think so. At least in the
Oh,
movies they do. I never went to a courtroom myself, and I never took a peek at those. But I can imagine that if you're laughing while you're telling something, it changes the whole meaning of your words. So if you're saying it with an earnest face, I think the meaning could be interpreted very differently. So it would
yes.
only make sense.
That's my belief about the Bible. There's not enough. You don't know in what tone some things were said, although you can infer, I guess. But
Oh, you think some are sarcasm?
maybe, or some of it was maybe joking, or some of it was like loud, or I don't
Yeah,
know.
if you're referring to the classic canon, that's in the Bible today. I would say they are rather subdued a little bit. But if you go to the apocryphs and to the findings of Qumran, for example, that is amazing. Like children's stories of Jesus, where he resurrected some small birds or something, and he seemed to be a rather well, little boy who wanted to make fun of some of the people around him. So
Wait, was this one of the books that's not now included in the Bible, or
yeah,
is this in? Okay, because I know there's isn't there a Gospel of Thomas as well?
yes, and of Judas.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to read the Judas one, but the Thomas one does seem interesting.
Thomas is very interesting, but he's a rather short one because it's just more or less sayings that he did. Judas is very interesting. I love that because I'm a very big fan of Jesus Christ Superstar, the musical, the movie.
Hmm.
So I'm a big fan of Judas because Jesus wouldn't have been able to do all the stuff that he wanted to do if Judas hadn't been there.
Whoa, whoa,
So
whoa. Not a lot of people say they're big fans of Judas.
I know. I'm a little bit crazy, but
It is
uh,
blasphemous to say that.
I'm totally going to hell, and I'll be so busy shaking hands with
Oh
my
my
friends
God.
out
Okay.
there. So
Okay, let's hit the brakes a little bit. So you are what is your okay, since we're talking about this and maybe if you want to answer this, what is your religious conviction then?
So I started out with being a Protestant because my family, or let's say my mother, is
Yeah.
Protestant as well. My father was a Catholic, and he both of them wanted to go to be a priest, respectively a nun. So I come from a very religious household, but
Okay.
then my father dived deeper into religion and into the church itself and stuff like that. So he worked there as a ministrant and something like that. So he was not very content with the Pope and with the church works that were being done and stuff like that. So he left church. And so my brother and me, we were raised Protestant from my mother. And yeah, later on, I dived always deeper. So one of my favorite books as a child was always my children's Bible, and I was carrying it around everywhere and reading all of the stuff because there are so many amazing stories in there.
Hmm.
And yeah, later on, then I switched to more kind of a more spiritualism because I had some problems with figuring out if the Bible is on the whole correct. Then I have several issues with that. So with a persona of God, there seems to be some kind of switch of a character between the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I had trouble to bring all that together in my brain. So I was referring with my priest and with all of the well-read people around me, and I was always asking them questions, and they were really then okay, you're diving really deep into all of that. And I was saying, well, I want to get it right. I'm meeting so many people who are old, so old in the sense of they are over 60 or they are nearing 60, and then when they are nearing their deathbed, then they have some kind of epiphany and they want to dive deeper into their religious views and stuff like that. So I thought,
Right.
okay, there's so many people who want to who regret so many things that I wanted to do that earlier. So
Yes, yes,
I dived
yes.
very deep into that.
Did you ever try the Jewish tradition? Because in the Jewish tradition, that's encouraged. You ask questions and all that. I think you'd love that. Maybe you get a because I think there, even though the God in the Old Testament is maybe depicted in a very negative light, I think I'm not familiar totally with the Jewish tradition, but all I know is that they encourage questioning and they have a lot of commentary on that. So I
Yeah,
find that infinitely fascinating. You know.
I've I've seen the movie Yentl, also one of my favorites, where a woman disguises herself as a man to be able to study the Talmud and stuff like that. So
Oh, which movie is that?
Yentl, it's called Yentl,
Yentl.
with Barbara
Nice.
Streisand, and I love it. It's a musical, so she sings nearly all of the time. I should say that because I took it with me to my religious studies in at school, and they were saying, "Does she have to sing now again?" And I was saying, "It's a musical. Just dance. What are you expecting? I was telling you it's a musical. She is going to sing. I'm very sorry about that." But it was very funny.
Oh, I
And
just got an idea.
yeah,
Before I forget, there could
sure.
be this is maybe blasphemous, but as a Christian, I think I'm allowed to say there should be a interpretation of Jesus, the movie as a musical. I think that would be such a big hit. Can you imagine? Instead of instead of the the because my objection with a lot of Christian movies, even though they're really good and they stay faithful to the Bible, they are in some sense boring.
Yeah.
So why not do Jesus the musical? I don't know if that's ever been done, but just the
Just
thought
check
occurred
out
to me.
Jesus Christ Superstar. Jesus Christ Superstar by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice.
But
I
but
was
is
I was raised by that, more or
but
less.
but is that like the gospel version, or is that like a? I thought it was a band that was like something else.
No, it's Yeah, it's more the gospel version, but it takes more of a kind of a viewpoint from Judas. So when I
Oh, I
was
see.
raised,
That's why
there
it's not
was
popular. Okay, with the Christians. Okay.
I really started to sing all the stuff while I didn't even understand what I was singing because it's a total English musical, and there are several films about it now from the stage musical, but the original was the movie, and I really love the movie because Ted Neely, he played Jesus. He is simply amazing. And to be honest, when I think it was 4 years ago or so, I realized that he is still on stage. So he still has some versions where he goes on stage and where he sings his iconic Gethsemane and whatever he always sings. And I was saying that, okay, I really need to see that. Before I die, I need to see him live. And I was going to Parma in Italy with my parents because I had bought myself 2 tickets for that, so 2 shows on consecutive evenings,
Hmm.
just to make sure that I would be able to see him. And he was such a nice guy because I was waiting in line after that, and I get to meet him and stuff. And so I told him, well, I got raised with a movie, and it came out, I think, in the end of the 70s or something, 78 or something.
Right.
So it's been there for quite some time, and I still really love it because it took a whole different perspective on the thing. So it put Judas more onto the forefront. So he told the story more or less from his point of view.
I
And
should
now they're
watch that.
yeah, definitely. I only recommend it. Really, really.
You ever seen Fiddler on the Roof?
Not yet. I have the DVD and I need to watch it, but I
Oh
haven't gotten
man,
around to
that
that yet.
is you know, everybody knows I think a lot of people know the famous "If I Was a
If
Rich
I were a
Man."
rich
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I first saw a YouTube video of that, I was like, "Wow, this is a great music video." But then I realized actually it's a movie.
Yeah, it's so cool. There are so
It's
many songs.
amazing.
Yeah, perfect.
So growing up in Germany and all that, did you what were your hobbies that occupied your time?
It was always a little bit boring because it's reading, it's writing, and more or less nothing else.
Well,
Because it's really I sat down and I love comic books, so I have a whole collection of it. I got raised on comic books as well, so we were always a rather open family concerning lifelong learning, and you get it from everywhere. So I was really big into books and comic books. Most of the time I was doing that, and my teachers, they came to me in while we were having our breaks between the lessons, and they always said, so don't you want to go outside and run a little bit with the other children and stuff like that? And I was saying, no, I'm just in a very exciting passage here, so go away. I just want to eat and sit. And I always said I'm the watchdog for our door to the classroom because I was sitting next to it on the floor and munching my breakfast or my little bread and reading like a crazy person.
well, that's
Oh
good.
yes, and drawing. Yes, of course. I loved to draw as well.
So there's a creative element to your analytic mind or brain,
Oh,
let's
very,
say.
very definitely. I'm a very visual kind of person, so I think the really one of the most horrible things that you could tell me would be you will be losing your eyesight or something like that. And the first thing I would definitely be doing was learning Braille, and just so I could read.
Yeah, like who was that person? Helen Keller, and
Yeah,
she was famous for that Braille reading.
yeah.
So
But
I think
she's also been deaf, so I
yes.
think that's a real tough thing. I was watching a movie about her, and then later on, India had made some kind of Bollywood movie about a similar topic.
To her, like they ripped off the Helen's Keller story, and they made
And I have to say, they really, really did it awesomely. I was crying
really.
the whole day through. Yeah, it was awesome.
Do you
It's
know the
called
title of the movie?
Black,
Black. That's it.
just black, and it's
Black.
really awesome because I was totally convinced that the main character, being played by a woman,
Yeah.
I was totally convinced that she was blind and deaf. Totally, totally. And then I looked at her and I said, no, I know that face. I know her from other movies. That can't be. There she was listening, and she was,
So it
this
was
can't
so
be.
good. Wow.
It's amazing. I was really blown away by their talent. Yeah.
Given by the short title, it's probably a recent movie.
Not too much recent. I think it's about on the 2000s, somewhere around
Okay.
that.
It's kind of almost old now, and I guess 20
Yeah.
years.
We always have to think differently now for that. Yeah.
Right. So I think reading and writing a lot has helped you now in your career as a marketer because you were reading a lot of stories and, like you said, marketing. A lot of marketing is telling stories, either now on camera or writing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
So I noticed that some of your work was actually a lot of translations of what I thought it was erotica, but it's not. Can you explain to the
It's
audience what?
also it's also included because
Okay,
um, I have several streams of income at the moment that I'm also working on. So one of the things that I've been doing for quite some time now is I'm translating novels from English to German because you usually always translate in your native tongue, and because you can really tweak the small things and you get all the idioms and stuff like that.
yeah.
So um, and the other thing I do is proofreading comic books. So I'm at the moment I have been approached by a very big German publisher again to proofread for them. So I'm very excited to start with that for them as well.
Wow, that's amazing. You have because you were so much into books, I think, and kept at it. It's not like just you were reading. You were also seems like you were working in marketing and all the other like translating books. Last time we spoke, like you were in another room and there was a whole shelf that you had of books that you translated or helped to translate.
Yeah. I still keep them in a separate shelf just to keep to remind me and to be able to take a look at what I have already accomplished, because it's sometimes you tend to forget how long you're doing some things.
Yeah.
It's exciting then to see your stuff printed and sitting next to each other on the shelf.
Maybe
Definitely.
that's something that's lost in the digital age. Like a lot of people just write on computers, but sometimes it's nice to print it out and see how
Yeah,
far you've come.
yeah,
Is
definitely.
that
And
something you do?
I still prefer the printed version, for example, also for the comic books. I have a very huge selection of that, and I simply love to go to the shelf and pick some of them up. And you can't really enjoy the back covers next to each other in a digital world. So how would you do that? There should have been some kind of virtual room where you can go to, and as soon as that is possible, maybe I'll be switching my library into my virtual reality room. But as long as it's not, I'm rather content that I have a house that I can fill to the brim with books. It's just I just have to check with the static so that I'm not sometimes in my cellar down there.
Static? Why static? Oh,
Well, it depends on how much you have standing on there. So lucky for me, it's all one floor. But the house I was formerly in, it had two floors. So I had to be conscious about how it was built. So if you have a very bad static about that, and you put very many books, for example, they are really heavy on the first floor, then you have to check with the static if it's enough. And we were always joking that I have so many books that I need to see if the static will hold all of that.
Okay, I'm not understanding static and meaning the
Oh, I think
integrity of the building is the
yeah,
structure.
that's the word. That's the word.
Okay.
Just it's static. And I have no idea how to say it in English. I think
Right.
static is
Yeah,
something with
okay.
that
Okay.
space, right? Yeah.
Right. And
You're
I never even would think of that, and but I guess this is the German ingenuity. You think about every little detail. Like you
I
don't
just
want the
love my
house to
book.
fall apart because of the books.
I just love my books. I don't want them to have it somewhere in the cellar.
Yeah.
So it's, and I think my mother was the first to mention something like that. So she said, so, "Are you sure that your insurance will cover all of the costs that you have if something should happen? So like you get water in or
Because of books,
whatever."
because of I wouldn't think I never heard an insurance company raising prices because somebody has so many books. That is
No,
just
no, no.
outrageous.
Yeah,
Outrageous.
it's really. If you think about it, I have so many books in here that yeah, I definitely had to raise my insurance because I have so many things in
Really.
it.
They come in there and see how much stuff you got, and they're like, "Yeah, this is too much kilograms, too much weight."
No, no, not like that. But there are some books in here that are really a little bit more expensive than the rest. So yeah,
Oh, I see. Okay, so you
that's the
insured
reason.
them. Okay, got it. Um, Switching back to marketing, I think the thing I really don't like about some of this is that people come up with fake stories or they're
Mm.
because I think people on some level they can recognize somebody's fake when they're I made so much money. So I think I'm pretty sure people would lie about how much money they're making to how great their life is. Because I see a lot of like, oh, I started making money online and did this and that. So how much do you think is prevalent that the exaggeration and all of that phoniness that happens in online marketing?
When you're starting out, um, I think it's really tough to find some unique perspective on all of that. So when you started as an affiliate, I think the problem is most of the time people just want to join to make a quick buck. And especially in these times now, they don't know exactly how or what they can do to be unique and to stand out from the crowd that they are surrounded by. So my offer is usually something that I help to them to see the uniqueness of universal stories that I can use, or epic tales like in the Bible, or in historical sagas like Odyssey and stuff like that. So I think as long as you do not have the ability to use those stories, for example, you usually stick to the usual stuff you see other affiliates doing as well. So there are those posts about what you can do to make your profile more accessible, motivational posts that are more to boost false engagement with people. Because, well, if I wrote carpe diem or something, people would say, well, yeah, I totally agree, and that's my motto, and I always tell it to me in an affirmation when I stand in front of my mirror. So you have much engagement going on, but people don't necessarily buy then from you because it's so generic. You haven't given the stuff a unique perspective, because everything that you put on your profile or that you're putting out, it has to connect to your person, because people don't buy stuff simply because they can buy it.
Hmm.
When you're an affiliate, you have around 20, 30, 40, 400. I'm not exactly sure how many people are in the affiliate market for that certain product. But you have a big competition. So how do you stand out from those other people? You have to make people realize that you are unique and that people want to connect with you because they feel you, they really like you, they trust you, they know you. So if you tell them, hey, this product is very good and I totally recommend it, then that they know, okay, I can trust your word.
Hmm.
And I don't think that you can do that by making false money claims. and false income claims.
Right. So you have to come from a place of honesty and also
Definitely.
put effort into your stories and all. Like you said, the Odyssey basically, is that meaning that they come from the story is, well, I had nothing and then I did this and then I came out on the other side and started making money. Is that it basically?
That's another kind of story. And there are some people who use that. My stories are different because I really use the classic story from, for example, the Odyssey. So what did I do the last time? I put out like a journey post. So you can tell people Odysseus, he was going on a journey and he wanted simply to return home, but he had all those dangers and those things he had to overcome before he was able to come home. But then he was not able to rest there as well because his wife had so many suitors and they were just not letting her rest. So he had to think of something quickly, how to get rid of them. And then you can combine that with what you have to offer, and you can tell them, okay, I know that you have been through so many other stuff as well. You have made so many shiny objects that were distracting you from your journey to your goal to get money or to make money or to be successful online. And I have a great offer for you, and I can give you this or that product, for example, or I can give you these steps that you can take and you will be successful, for example. So it's more a connection of the known tale, finding something in there that connects to your offer, and
Hmm.
then you can connect the two. So I have never seen someone doing that before, so it's totally unique on the Facebook market or on the internet market and content marketing as well. So at the moment, I'm searching for people who are excited to go with me on the journey.
So is it like you use the actual text of the book, but then, or the story of the book, but then you're like, in this situation, instead of what the book is, like the wife, like the suitors for the wife, let's say his wife, you put in what you would offer instead or something. That's very fascinating. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, as I said, it's really unique, and I don't necessarily use it word for word. So I'm transcribing it because it's most of the time the original texts are rather heavy. And if you would read the original Homer, for example, it's really a little bit boring. So I
Right.
pep it up a little bit and make it more accessible, because at the moment the average human has an attention span of 7 seconds. So
Yeah.
you have to grab them up front, you have to have a good hook, then you have your story, and then you have your offer, your call to action for that. And I'm connecting that on a very unique level. And so that's really making people stand out from the crowd at the moment.
And when you say a little boring, you probably mean a lot boring for most people. That would be like,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
sleep, you put them to sleep.
Yeah, I have to admit I had to read because I had Latin at school. So we were, of course, reading De Bello Gallico from Caesar. So he was writing about the war that he had in, what's it in English called? Gallian. Well, you know, about Asterix and stuff like that. Yeah. And we were starting to read that, and some of the passages were really good and really exciting, and you wanted to know more. And then he went on to write about about the legions and about the march that they had going, and I was going, oh, it's so boring. And of course, the way to write has been changing over the years. So
Yes.
people need to be grabbed very early on now, especially if they're scrolling down their timeline. And on the other hand, in former days, people had much more, I'm not sure if I can call it patience. They were more excited to learn about other countries, for example. So when I remember, my mother told me she was reading Karl May, Winnetou, And she loved his descriptions of the countries that Winnetou or whoever was the hero in that moment was visiting. And she was saying other people who are reading it now, they do not necessarily have the patience for that. So they skip
Right.
this.
But the thing is, nowadays we're dealing with so much information from like commercials on TV, commercials on Facebook, on YouTube, radio, and then there's a lot of. I think most people nowadays maybe don't read books, but there's so much content that we go through, either video or otherwise. That's amazing. That's why people discard things really quickly if they get boring, because you have so many alternatives. Where before. Uh, Even 20 years ago, you didn't have that. You didn't have so many alternatives.
So true.
Um,
That's the reason why people have trouble picking one job and sticking to it as well. Or
you think so?
choosing one relationship and sticking to that.
Yeah, I've met people polyamorous and having, yeah, this, I don't know where
That's
this,
okay. That's okay. As long as everybody's fine with that, it's
oh
totally
yeah,
okay.
fine.
But the trouble with that is most of the time, so okay, I'm sticking to that person, but if something better comes along, then I'm switching. And I can. Sometimes I think that's the way the thing works now. And with jobs, it's similar. Formerly, well, you had your parents, and you said, okay, I need to be a smith now, a blacksmith, because my father was a blacksmith, and his grandfather, and his father's father, whatever. So you had your parents to blame. Saying, you are a blacksmith, I need to be a blacksmith now.
Right.
Nowadays, you have so many options that you usually have trouble to pick one and to stick to it for a certain amount of time, just to get the hang of it and just to get some kind of practical experience.
Yeah, there's a quote by Eric Hoffer, to paraphrase. He's not German, but even though his last name is German, American philosopher, and he said that limited opportunities are as much frustrating as too many opportunities.
Yeah.
And that is perfectly exemplified in today's society, especially when you think of children of rich people or something like that, because they have so many opportunities.
Yeah.
But their parents probably didn't have. Their parents oftentimes started with a lot smaller um, selection of options that they had in life, so they had to really stick to something.
Yeah. And the problem with that is we humans tend then, and now we go into psychology as well, if you have too many options, then we go like, I don't want to choose at all because I could choose wrong. And what if I chose and that's the wrong decision and the other one was the right one? So
Right. I have that right now with I applied to university I'm in. It's the first week, but I'm doubting. Is economics / theater studies the right thing? And I wasn't pleased with some of the because a lot of things nowadays is imbued with political stuff, and I don't like that. And so I was like, man, this is but they told me I only have 2 weeks to switch to something, and yeah, so
that's good then because they force you to make a decision.
yes.
Definitely.
Although you can change some things after the first year, you can change directions a little bit as well. Anyway, doesn't matter for this conversation. I noticed. Okay, I was gonna say in the beginning, but saving to now. So I noticed that your book is basically the book you showed me is basically just for women. So is there a specific reason why the book is geared for only women? Like, is it because it's like, I don't know, makeup products that you specialize in,
No,
or is it something like that?
no, it's the reason for that was that it's all women who were contributing their story. So
Oh,
we decided to target especially women, but the stories themselves are really universal. So my story is also about storytelling and about overcoming trouble, overcoming some challenges in your life. Because when I started out in my first job, I had several problems, and then I was talking about that, and some of the other women, they were also talking about challenges that they have overcome, and how you can use their learnings and their wisdom in your own life. So it was more kind of a market decision, because usually you have to choose for a specific market and to bring it out for a specific market. And since we were 16 women, it's really been more targeted to women themselves. But I know that several men also have bought it and have enjoyed it very much. So it's not
Right.
necessarily simply
Well,
for.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate a bit. In today's political climate, somebody could come along and say you're excluding the trans people and all that. It's
I'm not
transphobic.
this. What one?
No, I said they could say transphobic, but no, I'm just joking. Meaning, what is my point? My point is sometimes in marketing. I think maybe your opponents will try to attack you on the politics side. Is that something that's happening in marketing, like, or in business?
I'm not necessarily sure. I have never encountered it myself, but maybe the reason for that is that I have been very active on the LGBTQ market as well. So I have many people that I am friends with. I'm proofreading some books of dear friends of mine who are very much targeting a very open market. So they are called Brackhaus. So they have their books also up on Amazon, and I've been proofreading their stuff, and I really love them because they have invented a world where there is not necessarily some kind of thinking of you have male, you have female, and only those two are allowed to marry, because it's in their world it's totally open. So it's a little bit. I'm not exactly sure if you know the video game The Elder Scrolls Online.
No, I
I've never.
I've faintly I think I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Because I've been playing that, and I realized that how hard it is to open the different departments in your brain, because when you're playing Elder Scrolls Online, it's really, you go into that world, and you have for example a female asking you for help because her spouse is missing, and when you find them, you realize, oh, it's a woman, so she's married with a woman, and you have two males who are married as well. So it's totally accepted in that surrounding. And it's since I have been in that area for quite some time now, and have many connections to gay romance authors, for example, that are writing romance about homosexuals that are targeted for women. So women are reading those novels.
Oh, they are.
Um,
I didn't realize that. Wow.
yeah, that's it's a small market, but it's a very targeted market as well, and it's a very good market. If you're going there, then it's very fascinating. So I've been on several conventions for these themes as well, and I really love to connect with all the people, because I think they are, some of them are really open and are totally fine to talk with everything about their lives, about how they are viewed. And I love connecting, and I love to open my worldview because of that. And since I'm a big fan of comic books, it's been now very interesting for me to watch that there has been an opening market for example, I have a series about a transgender, about a non-binary character, about gay romances, about lesbians, about it's totally open. It's about a romance with a guy sitting in a wheelchair, and they are focusing on some of the trouble that he has, just getting along with other people, because he has a different kind of view. So he's constantly lower than all of the rest. So he's constantly looking them at the navel or
Hmm.
something. So it broadens your view, and I really love that, because you never usually have the chance when you just go about your business to broaden your perspective that way.
So your book, is it mostly aimed at people that are in online business, right?
No, no.
No.
So you mean the Yes I Can?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
no, no. It's really people who are entrepreneurs in all areas of life. Even we have several women who are moms as well. So they have written something about being a parent and how to integrate all of that as well. So it's a total broad array of lives, of challenges, of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Um, that's really good. And I really love the title. Yes, yes, you can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like that.
that's really good. I um, I have to admit that I've never, even though you said you translated a lot of those romance novels, I once
Yeah.
tried to. I remember one time intentionally I borrowed a book about that was kind of like one of those just normal like basic short
Mm.
romantic novels or whatever, but I never read it. And I think I get why mostly it's targeted for women because mostly women read that.
Well, I would have to disagree because my father is now an extensive reader of romance novels himself,
Okay, all right.
and he really loves them. And to be honest, I think men should be reading much more of that because it really tells you how to win a woman's heart. And
How to manipulate then?
no,
No,
not
I'm
really.
kidding. I'm kidding.
It's like Hitch. It's like Hitch. If you really love her, then I will help you get her. But if you don't, in the end, you will be in the ass of the bull in front of Wall Street. Something like
Right.
I love
Okay.
the movie.
I haven't seen that movie, but I know it's Will Smith movie, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's
All right.
really it's an awesome movie. I love it. When I'm finished, I'm starting over again all of the time because I
Okay.
love
Let me rephrase. So basically, you're saying that reading romance novels is going to enhance your emotional intelligence.
it. Yeah, that's a good description for that. Yeah,
I
definitely.
okay. Thank you.
And I have to admit, at the moment, it's a little bit tougher to figure out good romance novels because we have so many people going on the market, and we have so many self-publishers, for example. So if classic publishers said, "No, I don't want to publish your book because I don't see any market for it," for example, then people are going into the self-publishing industry and they are bringing it out themselves. So sometimes you have uh, let's say a little bit of a lower quality in the self-publishing area. Now, since it has been on the market for quite some time now, you have on the one hand self-publishers who take it very earnestly. So, for example, my friends, the Bruckhaus, they are really focused on delivering quality, and I know that their books are going through several beta readings, and they get feedback from them, and they integrate it all, and they have a really vast universe that they have invented. On the other hand, there are of course the in German you say it's Einhandlektüre, so it's a one hand lecture. You can keep reading here and doing other things with the other hand, and so it's totally okay. So if people just want to get off on reading that, it's totally fine. But that makes for a very vast array. So when my dad, for example, started out, he was convinced because I started reading. It was I think from the 80s or something, that it was were more books, and after I read them, I had I was able to really tell him all of the English kings in the right order because they were featured in the novels. So that was the final straw where he was saying, so, oh, it's not just fluff and pink and marriage and children, but you really are learning something from it. Because especially if you're going into the historic romantic direction, then people usually have to take their research very earnestly. So because they are facing a really well-read audience.
Okay, I can see how that can help because you are actually the story in the book is based on actual facts. So you're actually learning history as you're yeah, that's good. That reminds me of like those movies or mini series that are based on actual historical events, and those I think are highly good for because they're combining entertainment and information slash learning. So those two, those combination of those two, I think is the best. And I think that's where things are going, frankly, like with education. I think because a lot of lectures and stuff like that, they're presented in a boring way. But if you can learn the same things and do it in an entertaining way, that professor is always going to be like, as long as he's not skipping any steps, you know, and you're actually learning all that you need to learn. I think that's the way to go.
Definitely, definitely. When I remember my university studies, it was really, I had one American teacher, and he was a professor, and he was coming and he was talking with us through different movies. It was, I think it was called something like The Myth, in different versions. So he was focusing on how a myth can develop, how you can really participate in developing it also. And it was really exciting. And he was also looking at all of the movies in a totally different light. So I really enjoy now videos, for example, on YouTube by Lindsay Ellis, where she goes into detail on different Disney movies, for example, or she analyzes The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, or even Game of Thrones, which I'm not a very big fan of. But it's totally amazing for me to see all of the stuff and to see it with a different view. So just to broaden your way of living yourself, because as long as you have the ability to read something and to integrate it, then you have a second option. So you're reading about one woman, she's standing up to her man because he's pulling her down or something like that. So if you have read something like that, then suddenly you have a whole other option of, if you are ever in a situation like that, to totally be another person, because you
Right.
know, okay, there are several other people. And it's been proven that our brain does fire in the direction. So if you're reading something about a hammer being used to hit in a nail or something, then the areas in your brain that you would use for hammering in a nail yourself are also fired up. So it's totally
Yeah.
fascinating.
Right. So that's why I'm not this is going to be a bit blasphemous to say, but in popular culture, that's why I don't like a lot of Tarantino movies, or most of them,
Yeah.
because I think it's a glorified violence. And I know years ago he had a contentious interview where people questioned him about violence, but you know, the man is good at what he does, and he's not gonna change because some interviewer is gonna say something. But still, I can have my opinion on it, and my opinion on it is, I don't know if it's good for the entire culture, because I think art does influence culture in some way, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's
Um,
funny. I think you are one of the few people that I've met, and I don't like the movies as well. I think there is only one movie that I've seen twice by him, and it was Inglorious Bastards, just to remind myself. But I'm also not a big fan of Christoph Waltz. I'm very sorry. I
okay.
think he's a little bit overrated, and because I was watching the Tarzan movie that he was making after the Inglorious Bastards version. So I was watching it because I'm a big fan of Edgar Rice Burroughs, and he did an amazing job with his books about Tarzan. So if you ever have the chance to read it, I would highly recommend it, because it's an adventure. It's totally awesome. Um, and I was watching the movie, and there he plays the villain, of course. And I was just watching it, and I was thinking, okay, it's nearly the same character than in Inglourious Bastards, and I think he's now so focused on being that. Though I have to admit, I still need to watch Battle Angel Alita, because that's
Right.
been made from a manga. So I'm very curious how he has incorporated that person, because I know the manga, and it's been one of the first that came out formally in Germany when we started out, I think in the 90s or so, with a manga. And I haven't seen it yet. I need to watch it. So maybe he did a better job with that, but I'm not personally too keen on psychopaths. So it's not
Right, right, right.
necessarily my cup
But
of
that's the
tea.
thing. In modern culture, they glorify the psychopath and the victim. No, or even the criminal, like making the audience sympathetic to the criminal. Like I had a guest who's dealt with many criminals because he worked in a prison,
Mhm.
Theodore Dalrymple, and it just fascinating because he told me that there's stories where somebody's in prison but you don't know what they did, but the story is trying to make you sympathetic to the character. Like, but the character, for all you know, he could have been like, he could have butchered kids and eaten them for breakfast or so. So you don't know what the man did, but the story is making you sympathetic to the character. So I don't know, it's a bit disturbing to be to be honest.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So, and I'm definitely no fan of Quentin Tarantino, because I don't like it if the blood is sprayed somewhere. No, no, I don't have. Funny enough, I still enjoy zombie mangas, but I think it's a little bit different. So if you're reading about it and you see it on the page, instead of moving and really with colors and stuff like that, because it activates a different area in your brain. So I'm very to admit it. I'm always curious about horror movies, so I really want to know the plot, and if I can get somebody to go in there and then come back and tell me about it, I love it. I love it. I always want to know the story, but
You don't want to see it.
I'm such a scary cat that I would never go into a horror movie in the cinema or something, because I would just scream the whole day or something. It's not necessarily in my persona. I'm not a character to go into a horror movie and watch it.
Right,
Still, I
right.
want to know the
I
plot.
I'm not a fan either, but I think I know what's been happening is that they desensitize the audience,
Yeah.
because I saw some videos on YouTube in the early 70s, and there was some, I think it was The Exorcist or some kind of other movie where it was really kind of, it wasn't even that scary for now, I guess, but back then it was like, big deal. And people were like fainting and all that. But now people are so desensitized because they've seen so much of that they're like even laughing at it.
So you need to go bigger and better and really more gruesome. And I don't know where the end of that is, so I'm not exactly
Yeah,
sure.
that's the destruction of Western culture right there, I think.
I think there's always some kind of well, adverse thing going on. So if you have some people who are really going into the extreme with that, I think there are also many people who are working on the other end of the scale. So it's
Hopefully that's the
as long
case,
as long
honestly.
as we are living in a duality, we won't be changing that. And to be honest, to some extent, I'm also glad that we are in a duality. Because we would not realize what we are if we were just living in the sun and everything would be perfect and we are living in a paradise. If you follow the Bible, then you would say, okay, we had that and we were not content with it, so we got thrown out. Um, I think and that's my spiritualism now speaking. If you go with the law of attraction, and if you go, okay, everything is fine in the end, and I think religion sees it a little bit similar to that, because they believe in some kind of paradise where you can go to after your death. I think all is well, and
Or
that's
hell,
been
or hell.
all that. So may have a big party, and go, because there are several versions of the first sin. So Eve was not necessarily the first woman in paradise. Lilith was, if you're following the Jewish tradition. So
Oh,
it's
I
very
didn't know that.
exciting to. Once more?
I didn't know that there was
Yeah. Yeah, there are
okay.
different interpretations for all of that. So Lilith has been the first woman, and she was made also from dust, like Adam. And since she was too opinionated, that's one of the interpretations, she was thrown out of the Garden of Eden. And
Oh
she
wow.
became then the mother of all demons, if you're following the Jewish tradition. And maybe some some of your audience may know Supernatural, the series. There they incorporated it a little bit with Lilith and with being thrown out and being the mother of all demons. So it's very exciting with that. And I love
Oh,
it.
I've seen 1 or 2 episodes back in the day when it came out, but then I
Yeah.
stopped watching. I was more of a Smallville fan, so I kept watching that.
Carry on, my
Superman.
wayward son.
Sorry.
Carry on, my wayward son. I think I watched until season six or seven or something, and then I lost it. Yeah, there are so many things you can watch nowadays that it's really
Yeah.
hard to find time for everything that you want to see.
Okay, I wanna, because we're kind of approaching the end. If you had to give advice to yourself before you started the marketing and all that, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would definitely say trust yourself and trust that people want what you have to offer, because otherwise I would not change a thing. And I think that's the most I think that's the best way to live your life, to not regret a thing that you have done, and to see that everything that you have done up to now, that it led you to now. And just to be happy with what you have, focusing on that, being ready for more. So that's one of my mottos, just to be
Be
content
yourself.
in,
Mm.
yeah, be yourself, be content in the moment, but be ready for more.
What is the, by the way, what's the spiritualism influence that because I think you're channeling some of that now as well.
It's I start. Funny enough, I started out because since I came from Christianity, I was starting with Conversations with God from Neil Donald Walsh, and
Oh,
there I find some kind of God character that I could relate to, and I was really glad I stumbled over that. And then later on, I found The Secret, but I saw the original Secret movie, so before it came out on DVD, and there were some changes in there,
right.
and they took out a certain woman, Esther Hicks, and she was the woman I was really most connecting to, because she's channeling um, yeah, an entity. Let's call it an entity called
Mm,
Abraham. And I really loved her words, so I was searching for her then, and I'm rather content with how they explain how the world revolves, how it goes, how you can just be happy because life's supposed to be fun. And I really love that concept because it made something in me resonate with it.
right. Find your joy. And what was I think I saw a video once of Abraham, and she was quoting what is it, Joseph Campbell, "Follow your bliss" or something. Was
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
is that
that's the one.
possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I like that. I think that was, I saw that version of The Secret as well, and then later I think they changed it. But I saw,
Yeah, I think it's been downplayed a little bit now because it's so, The Secret is so focused on money, relationships, and health. So the big three, and Abraham is a broader perspective. So you go into more of the nitty gritty, into how can I make the whole of my life better, and not necessarily just certain aspects of it. But um, there's a saying, and I have to look it up because I'm not exactly sure how it sounds in English, but it's some kind of, I think it was Mark Twain who was saying that the American people can take something, break it down, make it smaller and a little, and then they put on some kind of bow, and then it's perfectly presentable, and you can awesomely learn it. And that's something that they did with The Secret, I think, very good. Which one can see because they now have the motion picture out there, based on the book as well. I
I,
think it's time for that, yeah, but not
right.
necessarily just
I
to help
I
them.
thought the woman was Australian that did that.
I think she is. I think she is.
Okay.
Rhonda Byrne. Rhonda Byrne is Australian, I think. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I have you ever seen What the Bleep? Do we know?
yeah, yeah. I love that. Did you see Down the Rabbit Hole, the second one then?
I don't think I saw. I don't think I saw all of it. I saw some clips on YouTube, I think.
Because
Yeah.
down the rabbit hole, that was the second one then after the bleep, and they were explaining the wavelength experiment that they
Right.
mentioned in the first one. And personally, I found the second one much more enticing and much more interesting for everyday purposes.
By the way, for the audience, I'll plug my own show actually. On episode 12, I had assistant of, I guess an assistant, somebody that worked with William Tiller, who was in What to Believe Do We Know? And she wrote
Oh,
a book about it, Bridging Science and Spirit. And I think actually you might find that book interesting because
yeah,
it's a very good
definitely.
book.
I'll check it out.
And yes, for anybody in the audience that wants to check Julia's book, can you show the book again? I'll put it in actually I'll put it in the links on YouTube. There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
I'll be sending over the links and you can access it then.
There we go. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on,
Thank you.
Julia Weisenberger.
Yeah, great.
Got it in my German accent. Yes. The benefits of watching German as a kid. Amazing. So thank you for the audience of listening or watching. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks.